Okay, so when I was thinking what to talk about for this presentation on vinyl records, I recall the scene in the film High Fidelity, in which the main character reorganizes his records in autobiographical order. So I took a hint from that idea and realized that many of the records I have were introduced to me by all sorts of people. And so this is sort of like a belated thank you message to all those sweet people. Now, I'll start from my dad. My dad used to play these records on weekends, and that custom of his was my first encounter with music. He played classical musics and also jazz as well. The Harry Belafonte album introduced me to Jamaican music. The Nat King Cole album introduced me to Latin music, and of course, Miles was the album that I first heard of his. But my father had a rather strange collection, see, he well, although he had that rather rare record, he didn't have kind of blue at all. So it was kind of biased in a way. Right. So, like I said, the Harry Belafonte, this album, which starts with Deo, the Deo, and Nat King Cole with um, Cole Espanol. Okay, so this is the first single that my mother bought for me. I think I bought. We were living in Houston at the time, and this is Petula Clark's Downtown. I still have this. I still play this at DJ events. And also, this is the first LP that my mother bought for me. It was the Monkees. I loved their TV program when I was 3 years old. And according to my mom, I literally cried and begged her to buy this album for me at this department store. And so must be one of the rarest records I have. Maybe this is only a copy in Japan or maybe in the Far East Asia. It was a novelty album from a TV program broadcasted in Houston, Cat at Dawn and Seymour, right? And my mother, she didn't buy records for herself when she was young, but when she got the job, she started reading the women's magazines music section, and she started buying records on her own, like Pink Floyd, Paul Simon, and that Keith Jarrett record was one that she bought. And also, I used to go to a boarding school, and although I don't have any brothers or sisters, the guys in upper grades would have all these cool albums. And one of the guys, gave me this tape, this Japanese Inoue Yosui tape. And in high school, I was in a band, and in that band, the members would tell me to listen to this album, to that album. Although at first, I might not have liked the albums, but gradually I started to get to like them. So this is what Yellow Magic Orchestra, Talking Heads, and T-Rex. And also there was this lead guitarist in the band who also told me about these great guys, Jimi Hendrix, Frank Zappa, and Django Reinhardt. All these guitar geniuses that you could say. They're all different, but guitar genius. And also my friends also told me about jazz. Well, my father introduced me to jazz, but my friends, told me much more about more deeper kind of albums like Blue Train or Out to Lunch on the Blue Note label. Or there's also a friend of mine who was into organ jazz. And also some of my friends would also show me to classical music like these, or contemporary music like Philip Glass. Actually, Glenn Gould is one of my favorite musicians, and his Goldberg Variations was the first album that my kids heard when they came back from the hospital when they were born. And in fast forward to 2003 or 4, I was on this forum of Straight Note Chaser, which used to be a magazine published in the UK. And the bunch of guys would tell me all sorts of records that I'd never heard of. Right. So, mostly it was jazz, but it could be soul as well, or what you would call, or which is usually called as world music as well. Unfortunately, the magazine went out of print, but they're printing what, once or twice a year, maybe right now. And I have to say a big thanks to Peter Barakan. You can see his book on the bottom of this photo. He's a broadcaster from Britain, but he's based in Japan right now, and he has a couple, 3 radio shows. And I have to say thanks to Martin Scorsese for making this movie, The Band's Last Waltz, which featured Muddy Waters, Johnny Mitchell, and also Dr. John, whom I had never heard of, but totally blew my mind when I saw it. And another person I have to say thanks to is Jim Jarmusch for his films, and also the music that he featured in films like Screaming Jay Hawkins' I Put a Spell on You, and also Out There in Orbit by Earl Bostic. Screaming Jay Hawkins was really well, okay. And also my children, I have to say thanks to my children. My son is a rap musician. He has introduced me to the music of Childish Bambino, but my daughter found this record for me when we went shopping at a record store in Shibuya, and she started dancing. And also Pet Sounds. Well, Paul McCartney once said in an interview that he loves Pet Sounds album by the Beach Boys so much that he bought his kids each a copy of it for education in life. He believes that everything in life is in that album. So I want you to ask you all to give music to someone during this holiday season, because it is a very important thing to do right now in these days. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Wow, man, great message there, Pat. That is really